It's the starting five. I'm Yaron Weitzman, and we are here this week to take a break from our Lakers obituaries and to discuss and break down what is probably the greatest MVP race in the history of basketball. I know that sounds like hyperbole. It is not. Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic, you know the names. Each of them is having a historic season. I really wish we could give each one of them the MVP, but we cannot. So let's break down the race into 5 categories and determine a winner. Category number 1, offensive production. This is the thing we all pay attention to most, so why not start here? As you can see with the numbers up on the screen, all 3 of these players are having monster seasons. Giannis and Embiid are actually neck and neck with LeBron for the scoring title. You can see Jokic is a few points behind. Jokic, however, is shooting better than all of them and has dished more assists. And you can see that Embiid is actually a little behind in terms of assists and field goal percentage. Now, again, another caveat, I am not going to argue against any player. I am not criticizing Embiid, but if you're going to decide between 3 players like this, you're going to have to pick some nits. And the fact that Embiid is shooting under 50% is definitely a demerit on his resume. However, where Jokic really makes the case is in terms of his team's offensive production when he is on the floor. Think about it like this. Jokic has basically been without his 2 best teammates for the entire season, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. He's playing with a starting lineup that includes Jeff Green and Monty Morris. No offense to those guys, but the fact that the Nuggets are still performing like an elite offense with players like that in the lineup is a testament to just how amazing Jokic is. Guys like Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Tobias Harris, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, the players that Giannis and Embiid have played with, each of those guys would represent the best teammate for Jokic by far this season. Jokic is basically what would happen if you were in a lab and you combined Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, and Shaq. Because of that, I'm giving him the W for round 1. Category number 2, defense. Here things are a bit flipped as Jokic is clearly a level behind Giannis and Embiid, 2 players who you could argue are the best defensive players in the entire NBA. Both are incredible rim protectors and they're lockdown artists capable of guarding across multiple positions. Jokic, though, isn't as bad as he used to be, or some believe he still is. As you can see Stan Van Gundy point out here, he's figured out how to be the fulcrum of a solid defensive team. He's learned how to use his size and IQ and leverage those qualities into deterring opponents. He's also an incredible defensive rebounder, which of course is a major part of preventing opponents from scoring. You also can't ignore the fact that the Nuggets defense performs much better when Jokic plays compared to when he sits. All that being said, all you need is your eyes to tell you that he's clearly not on the level of Embiid and Giannis. Giannis has had an incredible defensive season. The fact that Brook Lopez has basically missed the entire season and Giannis has slid over to the 5 and done an incredible job of protecting the rim is a major testament to just how good he is on that end of the floor. But for as good as he is there, the Bucks are only 14th in the NBA in defensive rating, and that's with a guy like Drew Holiday at the top of the key. The Sixers, on the other hand, currently own the NBA's 7th best defense, and that's with guys like James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and others who are not exactly known as defensive stalwarts. That's all because of Embiid. He is probably the best defensive player in the NBA, a brilliant rim protector, a genius in the cat and mouse game and guarding the pick and roll, and because of that, I'm giving him the W in the category of defense. Category number 3, team success, and this is where things get fun and, well, kind of funky. If you're going by just wins, the Sixers and Bucks, as of this recording, both had 48 wins and are basically tied for the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. The Nuggets, meanwhile, are in 5th and in danger of falling into 6th in the West. However, if you look at the wins, the Nuggets actually have 47 wins, which is just 1 fewer than the Bucks and Sixers. So in a way that kind of undercuts the whole Giannis and Embiid's teams are winning more, especially when you add in the fact that Jokic is doing this without Murray and Michael Porter Jr. This is where Giannis's case is actually the weakest, as he's basically had Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday by his side the entire season, and where Embiid's case becomes the strongest. It's easy to forget now, but the Sixers went through a ton of drama earlier this season, the whole Ben Simmons saga, and they were able to stay afloat in the Eastern Conference, and not just that, but in contention for the top seed overall, all because of how Embiid was able to perform and how he was able to serve as a leader. I thought Sixers head coach Doc Rivers summarized this well to my colleague Melissa Rowland the other day in explaining why he thought Embiid deserved to be the MVP. It's easy to forget now, given how fast the news cycle goes, but I thought Embiid did an incredible job of leading the Sixers through all these Simmons stuff. All that being said, simple math still favors Jokic. Here on the screen is the difference in terms of how these teams perform when these players are on the floor. As you can see, when Embiid plays, the Sixers are 10.8 points per 100 possessions better compared to when he sits. For Giannis, that number is plus 11. For Jokic, that number is a ridiculous plus 18.6. That basically means that the Nuggets with Jokic are the Harlem Globetrotters. Without him, they're the Washington Generals. Because of that, I'm giving him the W in the team success category. Category number 4, humor. Yes, I know it's not as essential as offensive and defensive production, and it probably should have nothing to do with the MVP voting. But, well, I don't think we can discuss these players without discussing their incredible personalities. Say you like dad jokes? Well, may I present to you Giannis the comedian.
What do you call a cow on the floor? Anybody know? Ground beef.
Embiid, meanwhile, is a bit more vicious with his attacks. It's basically the opposite of Giannis' approach. And Jokic is somebody who's claimed to have spent 5 hours playing Pokemon during his vacation days. Who am I going with? I'm a dad. I'm corny. I'm going with Giannis. Category number 5, who wants it more? No, this doesn't actually matter in terms of the MVP voting, but it is fascinating to follow how these three players are processing this whole race. Embiid, for example, is openly campaigning for the award. He's done multiple big exclusive interviews, and here's what he had to say recently when a reporter asked him about chasing the MVP.
It happens, great. If it doesn't, I don't know what I had to do at this point. At this point, I feel like, they hate me, and it's cool.
I'm not so sure about that line of thought. I don't think there are any voters out there not voting for Embiid because they hate him or because they have an issue with Philadelphia-based athletes. I just think this is a really tight race. Another example of how a guy is campaigning or not campaigning, here up on the screen is what Jokic responded back in October when asked about the possibility of being a 2-time MVP. So where does that leave us all? Here's how I kind of look at it. I don't have a vote, but if I did, I'd be stuck. You know how when you go to an ice cream store and you can't decide which flavor to choose, and you take all those little spoons and you try a bunch of flavors and they're all delicious, and in the end, because you can't decide, you just pile them all on top of each other and get them all together? That's what I wish we could do with this MVP award. I wish we could vote for every single one of these guys. Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic are all having MVP level seasons. But if I have to choose one, I think I'm going with Jokic by a hair. The offensive production is too good. He's had no help around him, and he's played 8 more games than Giannis and Embiid. The fact that he's won basically the same amount of games as those two is a testament to how great he is. And for me, that's the deciding point. That's the starting 5. I'm Yaron Weitzman. For more great NBA coverage, be sure to check out the Fox Sports app.